So I realized that you can actually go into a curious summon and activation, as well as also set up your scythe lock for turn 1 with Helk and Dagda. So for this game, I've got Prince, Solitaire, Kazuki, Reasoning, and Zombie World in hand. I'm gonna start with Reasoning to bait out the Ash if there's any. This guy doesn't do much on his first turn. He's running Blue Eyes. I think he bricked. It's fortunate for me, so I can show how this combo works. So I'm gonna start off by activating Reasoning. Reasoning's gonna... For some reason, he knew to guess level 1. He didn't see a single card in my hand. All he has to go off is the size of my deck and the fact that I picked Reasoning. And he already knew that it would be a level 1, which is Skull Serpent's territory. But I was lucky enough that the card that I drew into was a Uni-Zombie right off the top. Uni-Zombie, normal summon Kazuki. Kazuki's going to activate first, sending White Baking. White Baking will activate, which will add both a White Mirror, and since I already got Prince in hand, I'm going to add a King to my hand instead of the usual Prince that I normally would. I'll send White Prince to the graveyard with Baking's effects. Prince will activate, sending a Lady and Vanilla to the graveyard, and then I get to activate Uni-Zombie. So at this point, I want to activate Mizuki. Mizuki will allow me to re-summon my Prince to the field. Since he's not once per turn, I'm going to get to pop off with Prince when it goes back to the graveyard. But I want Prince to be able to go into cards like Link Rebo. So Link Rebo comes out. And then that will trick Prince. Prince will send another Lady in White and Vanilla to the graveyard. Prince will activate from the grave to use his special summon effect to bring King back from the deck to the field. And since Lady's now banished, I can now use the White Ring on my hand to bring Lady back to the field with this special summon effect. King goes to 4,000, doesn't really matter though, because he's going away to summon Anima to the field in order for me to have resources to go into Curious. Curious needs 3 monsters who are the same attribute, but are of all different monster types. So we now have a Spellcaster, we have a Cyberus monster, and we have a Zombie, which is our Lady in White, which I will send to the graveyard. Now Curious on summon will act as a Foolish Burial, so you can send any monster from your deck to the graveyard. And then once you do that, you trigger a second effect, which is once per turn when you send a graveyard monster from your deck to a card from your deck to the graveyard, you will be able to mill 3 cards from the top of your deck. So I'll send a Mizuki to the graveyard, and I'll mill 3. And I'll activate Zombie World from my hands, since I no longer need that 3 different monster requirement. Do not activate Zombie World at the start of your turn, or you cannot summon Curious to the field, because all your monsters will be zombies. Now I'll use Uni-Zombie and Kazuki on the field to go into a Helk. And then on summon, this will allow me to special summon a tuner to the field from my deck. And then Kazuki being sent to the graveyard allows me to banish a zombie monster to special summon a monster from my hand. I banish the Anima that is now treated as a zombie due to Zombie World. Summon the King from my hand in attack mode. Mizuki from the graveyard, bring out the Glow Up Bloom because I want to be able to special summon a Bola Drop from my deck to the field now that I have Zombie World out. So Uni-Zombie came off the Helk activation. And then Glow Up Bloom came from the Mizuki I sent with the Curious. They will now go into Dagda. Dagda will trigger the Glow Up Bloom to bring my Bola Drop to the field. And that's the turn 1 setup right there. Now I have, usually would have Fristron, Halkra Febrax, Artifact, and a Doom King. And that would probably be my turn 1 setup. Now I have a Curious on the field as well, plus a King, because I was lucky enough to have Kazuki. He will activate, unfortunately, a Lightning Storm, so I will immediately activate the Helk in a response, which will trigger the Dagda, and Dagda will grab an Artifact Scythe from your deck and add it, set it in the back row in your spell and trap zone from your deck. And then the Hulk will summon a Synchro Tuner from your extra deck. gotta make sure at this point now, since he's activated Lightning Storm, to summon your Wonder Magician, which I will go into, in defense mode. Wonder Magician will now pop the scythe in the back row. And then, because he destroyed my Curious has an effect that most people don't realize, because they don't usually get to pop it off. When it's destroyed by the opponent's card effect, you get to add any card from your graveyard back to your hand. It can be a monster, or it can be a spell trap. So I'm going to add a king back to my hand. The TG Wonder Magician is going to get to pop the artifact Scythe. Scythe now activates because it's being popped and destroys next to the graveyard. It summons to the field. And because it summons to the field from the graveyard, it now locks the opponent from special summoning anything from the extra deck. And immediately, in chain response to that, I'm going to activate TG Wonder Magician's other effect to synchro summon on my opponent's turn. 5 plus 5 equals 10. I'm going to choose to go into Baron to blur. So now I have a negate. He doesn't have anything because he's running Blue Eyes, and Blue Eyes wrecked for days. Standby phase, I get to bring this back. He just surrenders. I had played of running Barrel from a Different Dimension to return 2 of my Mizukis from the graveyard, or from the banish zone back to the graveyard. I would have summoned Solitaire first, go into another Unizombie, send another Mizuki from the deck to the grave, activate Mizuki in the graveyard to special summon from something from the graveyard, maybe King, or even Lady in White to protect another King. Activate my Burial from a Different Dimension to return all 3 Mizuki back to the graveyard. I now have 3 more summons from my graveyard with 3 Mizuki I just returned with Burial. So I had a face-up Baron with negates. I had a face-up Doom King Bolodrock. I had at least 4 graveyard summons and a Unizombie activation. So I was set for just winning this game. This poor guy, he bricked so hard with his Blue Eyes. Brick Eyes, White Dragon. But yeah, this combo is actually kind of consistent. Very nice, very nice. And I didn't give reasoning enough credit. It can be very useful. So I'm now running 2 reasoning in my deck.